guys, it's Celine with Natural Living Homesteader, and I am going to show you how to um, can green beans today. And today we are going to do the raw pack method. I already have 3 pints here. I started with 2 pounds of green beans. I bought them at the store. They were not on sale, and I normally wouldn't do that, but I had someone ask me to show them how to do green beans. So, how to can them. So this is the size bag. This is a 1 pound bag, and I got 2 of them. So it's only making 4 pints. So it's not making a whole lot, and it wasn't a good deal. I normally wouldn't do that from store-bought if it wasn't a good deal, but I promised I would show you how to do this. So I've got 3 jars filled already. I'm going to fill the 4th one, and I'm just going to put some in there, and I'm going to kind of shake it around, shake it down really good, and kind of shake it sideways so that I can get as many in as I possibly can. Just keep shaking that down and then shaking it sideways so that there's more room to kind of stuff some down in there, because you just really want to get as many in as you possibly can. Because they're green beans, there are going to be, empty spaces in the jar, and you want to kind of get as many of those crannies and crevices stuffed full as you possibly can. And I think we've about got it. Get a few more on top here, and that ought to about do it for me. Here's an end I missed, and get a few more in there. Okay, there we are. Now I got a few left in the jar here, so or the bowl here, so I'm gonna see if I can't stuff some of them down in there, kind of pack a little tighter to get them all used. And I can get a few more in. Okay. All right, I'm good with that. Okay, so here are the cans. Now, normally, if I weren't having to pack them in, if I were just pouring them in or putting them in and not packing the way I was kind of wedging and packing, I would have used my jar funnel, but I didn't need that today. So I have them all packed. The couple of things you need to do, we're going to do pressure canning today. You want to make sure your jars and your lids are washed with good hot soapy water. You want to make sure that the rings around the lids are not damaged. These are brand new rings. You never want to reuse your rings when you're canning. But once in a while you'll find a flaw where there's a chink out or a glob or something. Not very often, but once in a great while. And you just want to make sure that that's not the case. You also want to make sure you don't have any chinks, any chips, or any lumps. I actually found a jar the very first time I canned that had this big old glass lump that would have prevented sealing. So you just want to make sure everything is in really good condition. You should have done that when you washed them. Anything that processes more than 10 minutes does not have to be sterilized. These are going to process for 20 minutes, or 15 minutes, I'm sorry. And so you don't have to worry about that. So next we are going to, we could have put water. I took hot water and I used my onion soup mix that I make, which I have done a video on. A very simple recipe, so that I'm going to give these green beans a little flavor. Normally I would just put maybe a half to a teaspoonful, probably a half a teaspoon for a pint full of canning salt, which I have here. But I'm not going to do that because my soup mix has salt in it. So I'm just going to pour that over. And now this is hot, and I am going to leave about an inch of headspace that's right at this lower ring here. I'm going to stir in between each time so that all the onions don't sink to the bottom. I'm going to have to make some more. It's not going to make... Yeah, see all my onions are in the bottom. We'll just kind of spread them out. All right, I'm going to make a little bit more for this last one. I'm using my tap water. My tap water gets so hot that I can't put my hand under it for more than 1 second or so. So I'm going to let it get that hot. And it's there. And I'm just going to put a little water in there. And then I'm going to take my I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons in there. And I probably could have done a little less, but that's okay. And I'm going to fill these up. Gosh, talk about perfect. Okay. Okie doke. Now, normally, I wouldn't, I don't know what I was going to tell you I wouldn't do. I just lost my train of thought. All right, so the next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that all the air is out. Because I have these so tightly packed, if I were to go in and start using my debubbler, I would mess all that packing up and it would get up over the top where I need it to be. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cheat today, and I'm just going to do some of this. I'm just going to tap the bubbles, get the air bubbles up. And because it's all liquid around this, that should be just fine. All right, so then the next step is white vinegar. And I always use white vinegar instead of water to wipe the rims, because white vinegar will get off any kind of a residue that might be on them that water probably wouldn't. And so that little guy wants to stick up. We'll just fix that. And so there we go. My rims are all wiped down nicely, so I know that they're going to be secure. You used to have to use hot water, like semi-boiling hot water, to soften these rings, but they don't. You know, the new the way they're manufactured, manufacturers as well as USDA say that you no longer need to do that, that it's going to seal just fine. We're going to put the rings on finger tight. You don't want to force it, but you just want it finger tight. Okay, now I am going to, because I put hot water in there, and the reason I didn't boil my water, which I normally would do if I was hot packing, which would mean the beans were hot, the water would be boiling hot, and then my canner water would be boiling hot. You want to always keep all your temperatures the same. So if you're doing cold, 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 if you're doing one thing cold, everything needs to be cold, which is why I just did hot water from my sink rather than boiling, and I'm going to just put hot water from my sink rather than boiling for this. So let me take you along. I'm going to first take these jars and place them in my canner, and then give me just a second and I will take you along with me to my canner. I'm going to show you now how this canner works. I am using a Carey canner. And you can no longer, I don't think you can buy canners that say Carey. They now say Nesco because Nesco purchased the company. And so same canner, and everything looks the same except for the name right here. So it'll say Nesco now. I also have a Nesco. So this is what it looks like. Pull back so you can see. That's what it looks like. I'm going to put 4 cups of hot water, the same temperature that I used when I did my beans. I'll plug her in. Okay, now I'm going to set my timer. I'm going to press high for pressure cook. Oops, too long. And I think I said 15 minutes ago, a minute ago. I think it's 20 for pints. I'm going to go look at that, and I may have to correct it, but I'm using my phone to record this, and it's on my phone, so I can't look right now. But I've added the water. I've set my time. I'm going to close my lid and lock it. Then I am going to set this on exhaust and press start. Now this little dial is going to go around until it builds up. Sorry, I'm not holding that well. Until it builds up the right amount of pressure. And then it will kick into a countdown of 10 minutes mode, which never takes 10 minutes on my Carey. It usually takes 2 or 3 minutes. On a regular canner, why am I not getting that centered? Okay. On a regular canner, it takes 10 minutes to pressurize. And as soon as the countdown starts, then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to flip that on airtight. And then I'm going to walk away from it until it beeps and tells me I'm done. That is so simple compared to most canners. Sorry guys, I'm just not holding this properly. There we go. But it's so simple. It'll take it probably 10 to 15 minutes to get up to the countdown point, get enough pressure built up. And so I'm just going to leave it alone until it beeps at me. That'll tell me that it's the countdown. Then I'm going to flip it to airtight and walk away until the 20 minutes is up. It'll beep, and that's all there is to it. I'm done. I leave it sit for an hour to depressurize and to cool off some. I take them out. I'm done. All there is to it. Hey guys, as you can see, it's on countdown. I was in the other room and I didn't hear it, but it's no big deal. I'm just going to flip this to airtight. You heard it buzzing away there in a minute, and it'll start doing that again here in a minute. And then it's counting down to from 10 to 0, and it will automatically pressurize itself and stay pressurized. It has a great regulatory system on it where I've never had an issue. I've always been able to rely on my Carey/Nesco electric canners. I also want to clarify, when I made that second batch of liquid for the jars, I said 2 tablespoons, I meant 2 teaspoons, and I see that I cut off, I was holding the jar too high when I was showing you where 1 inch of headspace is. 1 inch of headspace is this lowest ring here, this lowest lip, whatever you want to call it. And that is 1 inch of headspace. So if you go to that, you're good. Did you hear that just beep? Now my 20 minutes of canning has started. I do not have to stand here and babysit this. If I used a typical stovetop canner, I would have to stick really close the entire time and watch it to make sure that the pressure stayed in the right range. It needs to be at a 10 or 11 in my altitude of pressure, pounds of pressure. And so I would have to hang around and make sure that it did, and if it veered off one way or the other, I'd have to adjust my heat and wait for it to get to the right temperature and then maybe adjust it again, or the right pressure, I mean, and then adjust it again. Now, in all reality, I do own a a stovetop canner. I've never used it, still in the box, but I think I probably will this summer whenever I do canning from my garden harvest. So, because these are only hold, my electric canners only hold 5 pints or 4 quarts. And that's why I have 2 of them, so I can do bigger batches at a time. But, so I will use my other canner this summer. But for now, this is so convenient and so easy. I'm going to go put my feet up. It's going to beep in 19 minutes and tell me it's done, but I'm not going to touch it for another hour. And then I'll open the lid. I'll bring you back. I'll open the lid. I'll show you the end result. Okie doke, guys, here we are, and we are finished. This has run its course. It's still really hot. Whew! I let it sit for an hour after it was finished. Now I'm going to take out the finished product. Look at that, isn't it pretty? So pretty. It's still bubbling. And I'm going to set it down on a rack. Let me turn some lights on here. Maybe that'll help. Oh yeah, much, much better. Okay, here's another one. Look how pretty. There we go. There's our 4 quarts of green beans. They're beautiful, still bubbling away. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to hear little pings and little pops when these lids do that vacuum thing they're going to be doing as they cool. And this sits here for 24 hours. You don't mess with the rings, you don't do anything, you just leave them alone for 24 hours. Then at the end of 24 hours, you want to look and make sure that everything looks inverted rather than puffed up. If anything didn't seal, put it in the fridge, use it right away. But these lids should not have, I don't know if you can see it, a little poof up there in the middle. They should be flat or sucked down a little bit, and they all are. At the end of 24 hours, before I go to put them away, I'm going to take the rings off, and I'm going to lift them by the lid. And if the lid holds, then we're good. Everything is good. Everything is sealed. I won't put the lids back on. I take all the lids off, and then I write what it is and the date that I actually just do the month and the year that I canned it. And then it goes in my canning pantry. So there you go, guys. That's how simple it is to do green beans. So we started off with raw green beans, and we packed them. You can put water. You can just pack them in water with a teaspoon of salt if you want to. Half a teaspoon of salt. Yeah, half a teaspoon. And canning salt, and I honestly don't know why canning salt. I don't even know why it exists. I don't know that it's different or what the difference is. Honestly, I don't know. So, but I always use canning salt because that's what all the recipes call for. So a half a teaspoon of canning salt. I used my instant French onion soup mix that I make, my own recipe, and I've done a video for that for you. And I just do about a tablespoon of that in each. No meat, no bacon, no ham, nothing like that. If you add meat, then you have to process it in pints. Anything with meat must be processed for 75 minutes. Anything with meat in quarts must be processed for 90 minutes. Doesn't matter whether it's all meat or just a little bit of meat. If you put meat in it, it must be processed for that, so that if it's shorter than that, you could get botulism. So don't add meat to this stuff, because if you cook green beans for 90 minutes, 75 to 90 minutes, they're going to be mush. So there you go, guys. That's it. Thanks a lot. Bye.